I think it's quite varied, sort of personality, because we have a huge amount of people from various backgrounds, diversity, sort of expertise. But I think the common thread that goes through it all is everyone is very enthusiastic about the work that we do, and is eager to help each other. It's a very collaborative environment, so it's really nice that if you need help, people are more than willing to come and give it to you, which is something that I find inspires me in helping others as well. There's so many benefits to working for the HSE. To start off with, you have quite a great deal of control over how you do your work, on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, when you're going to go out, who you're going to see, how you're going to fit that in around your life. And if something big happens, then it's all hands on deck and the work comes first. But on a day-to-day basis, it's perhaps the most flexible job I've ever sort of done. You have your freedom to decide what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and you are trusted to do your work in the way that best meets the need of your area and your job. There's guidelines about how you do the work, but you're able to sort of use your personality to get the job done. So it's one of the most enthusiastic organisations when it comes to developing its staff. You find that they're eager to train you, to build on your continuous professional development, your ability to learn other things so that you can add value to the role. That training is second to none. It's a profession where you're almost unique in the sense that your employer now pays for you to do the work. I can't think of another profession off the top of my head that invests so much in its staff without its staff having to go off to university and pay for it themselves first. Enthusiastic, collaborative and energetic. I don't think I had any preconceptions about the job. I didn't really know what it involved. The people who I knew who had preconceptions were my family. They're like, oh, you're going to join the fun police. And it's nothing like that at all. It's the most varied job, the most engaging job. Sometimes there's some really hard days, but you get to see things that ordinary, jobs just don't give you and don't show you. It's fascinating and really engaging. For example, so I work in a rural area inspecting construction sites, and a lot of the sites in my area are heritage projects, so I get to go and see how we restore our sort of really important cultural sites. So that might be going up and seeseeing how thatch roofs are made. That might be seeing how you fix a church roof. I have been on, sort of 17-storey scaffold with a castle. Seeing how they repair the castle walls. Who else gets to do that and get paid to do that? Normally, you pay someone to show you their fancy site. So it's great. So I joined the HSE in February 2016. Prior to that, I was in the civil service working for the Advisory, Conciliation and Arbitration Service, which deals with employment law. So I used to be on the helpline advising employees, employers, industry experts, barristers on intricate parts of the law. But this is better. Well, our role has three sort of main elements to it. The first being that we investigate accidents, fatals, injuries and dangerous occurrences, near misses. That part of the role is almost like trying to solve a puzzle that's given to you, and you're given all the sort of backup from the organisation, whether you need sort of scientists, someone who's an expert in the law, advice from a solicitor agent if needs be, to work out A, what happened, B, how it could be avoided from happening again, and see whether someone needs to be held to account. If they do need to be held to account, then the other part of your role is to, take it potentially all the way to court if needs be, and whatever outcome is proportionate there. I think the other main part of the role is our proactive work, where we go out and do unannounced inspections at various, in my case, construction sites, to see how people are on the ground managing health and safety. What's the standard of the day? How are people ensuring that they're keeping up to date with what everyone else is doing? If there are issues, then we have a range of options to intervene and make sure that people do go home without having an accident that we have to then investigate, which is, to me, perhaps the most worthwhile part of the job, stopping something before it even happens. Because you don't want to have to meet somebody's family, unfortunately. I think the third part, which often isn't mentioned about the job, is the sort of, I think you might call it sort of the engagement side of the job. So the HSE works with industry to get messages out to the public, to businesses in the industry. So that might involve going to what we call working well together events and providing sort of support, giving sort of talks on key parts of the law. Our role is so that people are again aware of issues, so that they can put the right measures in place to protect people at work in terms of their safety and their health. I think the thing I enjoy most is getting out and seeing people working. I know that sounds really odd, but getting out there and seeing what kind of innovations we're capable of doing. So I went to a site last week where they were having to move around a load of bricks, and the director had invested in an exoskeleton, like on the Matrix or something like that, for the guys to move things around, and I'd never seen that before, and it was, 2 years ago I wouldn't have cared, but actually it's brilliant seeing how people are prepared to innovate as well, and also just get people thinking about how they do their work in the best way possible for them. I think on a practical level, sometimes finding sites can be difficult. I've had a number of times where my sat-nav has said, leave the road, and I'm on a cliff or something. So you end up sort of getting a sort of sixth sense for where places are, where a site entrance is likely to be. I think on a sort of bigger scale, thinking big picture, the main challenge is dealing with sort of difficult circumstances. When something has happened which has had a major impact on somebody's life, or a life has been lost, supporting the police initially, and then potentially taking over the investigation and leading that and doing that in as best a way possible, can be a challenge, but it's a challenge that is very worthwhile doing. I think this role has contributed the most to my career. When I began in the civil service, I was what's called an executive officer. It's quite a junior role. The training programme here has resulted in me being promoted twice, essentially, and has given me so many skills that are not only relevant to this job and the worthwhile work that we do, but will enable me, if I so choose to move on, to potentially higher roles in both the HSE or wider civil service. It's an incredibly responsible job, and that gives you so much opportunity to have a real career with real meaning. I think the support is second to none. Every inspector and every specialist in the organisation has had to do this training programme. So everyone's been there, everyone remembers what it's like being new and not knowing the difference between a saw and a cut-off saw, you know, or a scaffold and, you know, a mute. So everyone's prepared to take the time to walk you through things and make sure that you understand it so that you can then in turn do that again. And that's particularly impressive when you think about the fact that really we're an unbroken chain of 200 years of inspectors passing on information from one to the other, and that's, you don't get that in many other roles, do you? It's a challenge, but it's perhaps one of the best challenges I've ever undertaken. I've learned so much about what I am capable of doing, all the different things that I can keep in my head at once, the responsibilities, you know, from one day being in court in front of a district judge, right down to talking to a bricklayer about, you know, why cutting into bricks with no dust protection could seriously harm his health and how to improve that. You have the ability to talk to so many people on so many different levels. That's something that is going to help me not only in my career but just in general day-to-day life. I'm more comfortable in myself, I'm more confident in myself, because if I can do this, I can do anything.